Hello, I'm Azai. As you've already guessed, yes, I just came back from the gym, but I haven't said welcome back to Ultra C yet. Actually, forgot about that. I've been kind of sleeping a bit later these past couple of days. It's mostly because I'm kind of addicted to Slate Aspire, guys. Like, you just lose so much time playing Slate Aspire. As I said, I'm not necessarily like very good at the game, mostly because I kinda like one specific playstyle, and that's usually when I have a lot of cards, and that doesn't really do a lot of synergy with some of the relics that you can get in that game. But yeah, if you guys have never played Slate Aspire, it's a deck builder roguelike game. Very, very good game. Highly recommended. And it's super cheap too. I'm really excited about Slate Aspire too. I can understand why people really like this game. I'm usually not really into these sort of games, but man, that game is just so much fun. But yeah, let me actually talk about the last episode recap. So in the last episode, we finished off chapter 2. We learned a lot about Chotsugai and Ishiki, and yeah, mostly just those two, since that is their chapter after all. But I really do like chapter 2 way more than chapter 1, guys. I don't know whether or not it's because I like Chotsugai more as a character, because if you think about it, both are actually about their own internal struggles, right? But the thing was, I don't really understand Shotaro's perspective all that much. A lot of his mindset, to me, just doesn't make sense. While Chotsugai's actually makes sense for me. Other than the fact that he kinda simped towards Ishiki, of course, or Belle. But yeah, we found out a lot about a lot of crazy things. Turns out the kaiju that killed our family was Belle's mom. And Belle, or I guess Ishiki, or Katsu, really just wants to atone for what he did to our family. Or not to our family, to Chotsugai. But yeah, it's a very complex sort of emotion. Like, you know, it's a more complicated love in this one compared to chapter 1. At least that's what I think. Hopefully chapter 3 is gonna blow that out of the water, because chapter 2 really is my favorite one for now. I don't really have anything to say about chapter 2 because most of what happened we already knew, except for the whole Burai thing. I do think that Burai is still the one being used by Yomi and not the other way around. He feels sort of like an anticlimactic villain, right? He kind of died pretty easily too in the world where yokai, or sorry, not yokai, kaiju was still alive and whatnot. But yeah, let's start chapter 3, which I assume is going to be about Yomi and Juro. If not, I'd be pretty surprised. This chapter is probably gonna give us a lot of new information, because we don't know anything about Juro or Yomi. I've been surrounded by taillights for almost 20 minutes. The radio was talking about the accident ahead. The cigarette the previous passenger had left was still smoldering inside of the silent car. The smoke drifted about with nowhere to go.
お客さん、イカロスって知っていますか？
Kinda low. There we go. I forgot that I lowered the volume a bit because it was going to the movie thing before on the previous episode. Our eyes met through the rearview mirror.
私、青森のもんでしてね。先月こっちへ来てから2度も遭遇したんです。
He said I'm Icarus.
なんとイカロスは一人じゃない。怪獣を一撃で倒すイカロス。怪獣をなぶり殺すイカロス。私は無慈悲なイカロスが好きですね。
How the fuck are these Icaruses actually heroes? I thought that, you know, heroes are supposed to be paragons of virtue. Torturing the villain doesn't seem like something a hero would do. I'm wondering if that was the first or second one.
あなた、 鞘師十郎に似てますね。よく言われませんか？だからついイカロスのことを思い出したのです。
ここで降ろしてくれ。
ここでって。
When I handed him the exact fare, the driver shrank back as he took it. I guess he isn't comfortable when people actually know who he is.
お客さん。
It was a February night. I opened my umbrella against the heavy snow.
あっちから気配する。もじゃもじゃって雰囲気。
I was gonna say that umbrella seems very suspicious.
君は隠れていろ。
タロもヒーローなの。ついていくぞ。
The real Icarus didn't have a transformation pose. I jumped down from the number 3 line and ran northeast where Taro was looking. So his actual costume is already black. His face sensed once we got close to Aoyama Cemetery. Aoyama Cemetery? This place is very familiar, or not familiar, but very popular, I think. Because back when I was still, basically this is when I was still in grade school, I played this game called Devil Survivor, and they went to this exact same cemetery.
遅えんだよ。
Someone in a red suit was sitting on top of a writhing treetop. It was the remains of a kaiju.
憎むな怒るな許しましょう忘れたのか。
うるせえなクソ犬。遅れてきたくせにうだうだ言ってんじゃねえ。油断するな。油断がなんだって。
The kaiju aiming for his back was ripped apart by his left fist. The kaiju had disguised itself as a tree and exhausted the last of its strength. A spray of blood came bursting out of it. Akira changed back to normal and walked up to me in the snowlight. He came right up to the tip of my nose, glaring, then immediately walked past me.
間に合ったー。ってあれもう終わっちゃいました？
ノロマ、怪我人畜生。なんだてめえら。俺に文句言えんのか？
Who's the injured person?
苛立ちは身を滅ぼすことになる。だと。
喧嘩はやめてね。
何があった？
He was acting so strange that I had to ask.
おいしん、サイレン止めろっつっとけ。
We may have dressed the same, but we all went home in separate directions. I couldn't find the right words to say to Akira as I stared at his retreating back.
ちょっと
The white Icarus. He was looking directly at me, and only me. He slipped into the heavy snowfall without a word.
一触即発。
深追い無用だ。用心してくれ。くだらねえぜ。化け物退治に用心もクソもあるかよ。
Udara Nai, I think it's like pointless or something. What did it say in the localization there? What a crock. What's the point in being careful? Oh, sorry, he already said that. His back didn't need anyone else's warmth. We drove down the snow-covered Setagaya street. The snow was melting, but the remainder still chilled the feet of Tokyo. Suddenly, the headlights lowered. The handles felt even colder than the snow.
今日のアキラ怖い。タロのこと睨んでた。キーって。うんちの片付けお願いしたこと、まだ怒ってるの。
I mean, why couldn't you do it yourself? You can change into something other than a freaking dog.
心配するな。
ジュロ。
それより、思い出すことはあったか？
The light shone higher than before. I looked straight down the road without letting it confuse me.
あったあった。キラキラいっぱい吸い込んで2個思い出したの。
Is Taro going to be the the romantic interest of Juro and not actually Hibarino? If so, that is a very interesting development.
1個目はジュロみたいにタロもタロってこと。
太郎ということか。
そうそう。
He had a hard time pronouncing O. Ooh, oh, I don't know how to say that too, man. O or ooh, I guess? Sounds. He couldn't pronounce the name Juro Sayashi right. He called me Juro like a nickname. You could say the word poop just fine, or unko, right? Though. It wasn't a big deal, so I never pointed it out. Plus, I figured out it was Taro a while ago.
2個目はねタロ、ビフテキ食べたい。
そうか。
そうかってそれだけ？ねえねえ、いつもの言って。
大きな成果だ。
大きな成果だ。
Fuck? This guy is annoying as hell. 12 years ago, during the spring of 1957, a pillar suddenly appeared in Toyosu, Tokyo. It was a monument that combined elements from humans and kaiju. It was called the Sun Pillar, and it was a symbol for those that strove for peace between humans and kaiju. Oddly enough, my uncle and my aunt also died that day. I also met someone then. It was a mysterious creature named Taro. As soon as Taro woke up, he gave me my mission.
僕と一緒に怪獣を倒して。
And I just said yes? If I was him, I'd be very skeptical about this Taro person. It sounded like someone had taught him to say that. Thinking that my uncle's death had triggered Taro's appearance, I did what Taro asked. That's pretty much been my life over the last 12 years. What a waste of time! I can't believe you just did that on a whim. Taro transformed from an umbrella back to a dog and shook the snow off of himself. I just don't understand people who do that, guys. When they get given like something and then they do that, that's basically their identity, right? If I was in his shoes, I'd be thinking like, this is very skeptical. I have things that I want to do in my own life too. Just because you gave me a reason, or just because I don't have a reason and then you gave me a reason, doesn't mean I'm gonna follow through that reason. It might not necessarily be in line with what I want. Black shoes stood out in my now clear vision. Taro looked up at me happily, then turned toward the hallway and called his name. There was dinner outside of the mansion. The inside was filled with the smell of bubbles. I opened the bathroom door and saw jet black hair. There was a smile in the eye that looked back at me.
すみません。雪に降られてお借りしてしまいました。お帰りなさい、太郎。
He slipped and jumped up into the bathtub.
プカプカしてるこれ何？
みかんですよ。
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He's putting oranges in the bath?
みかんはデザートだよ。
そう。ですがいろいろな使い道があるのです。
ほほう。
太郎の目はみかんと同じ色ですね。
ですね。
それにしては多いな。
バイト先から廃棄分をいただいたんです。思い切って使ってみました。お湯入れ直しますね。
そのままでいい。
ですが。
I untied my obi and stepped into the bathroom. I scooped up some water and splashed it on my shoulder. It was so hot that it gave me goosebumps. I can't believe you're boiling in here with a straight face. The oranges rolled away when I lowered myself into the same tub. He was about to get out, as if to chase after them. Damn, this bathtub must be fucking huge. Well, he does live in a mansion, so he's probably super fucking rich.
構わないだろ。
狭いでしょ。
It'd take too much effort to refill it. Besides, the water will go down if you get out.
あなたがそう言うのなら。
He gave me another composed smile and got back into water. Fresh snow was falling into the garden. A biting cold wind came blowing in through the latticed door. Latticed. That made the temperature of the water just right. I watched Taro while I ate a warm orange. No, I don't think Taro is gonna be the romantic interest. This guy is too dumb to be our love interest.
どういうことでしょう。
太郎ではなく太郎というようだ。
12年ぶりの新事実ですね。
ヨミも太郎って呼ぶのだよ。
What a useless dog.
はい、太郎。無事に帰ってこられてよかった。
This guy might be the first kaiju Yomi infected or something. We'll see.
ジュロが守ってくれるから大丈夫なの。
よかった。
He squeezed Sara even tighter while he muttered his response. Taro's ears drooped.
あ、
トゲユ。
Taro wasn't a human or a kaiju, but some kind of creature made of clay. He ran out into the hallway.
よく乾かしたまえ。
I wasn't sure if Taro heard me or not. No, he's definitely a kaiju with those orange eyes. I don't believe it. Maybe he's the first man-made kaiju, or I guess alien-made? With Taro gone, the bathroom fell into a brief silence. His profile was turned toward the snow-covered garden.
この雪だと明日の野外撮影は中止ですね。
代わりの仕事が入った。
お忙しい限りで。
君はどうしている？
変わらずです。
今度は八百屋の仕事か。
はい。それと送電関係のバイトも始めました。明日は変電所の点検です。
I touched his forehead and brushed his hair. His skin was hotter than the bathwater. His hair was as cold as icicles.
安心してください。危ない仕事はしていません。
今はどこで暮らしている？
この近くですよ。
泊まっていくといい。
自分は鞘式の人間ではありませんから、あまり厄介になるのも。
おじは優しい人だ。
Thought your uncle died.
優しいからこそです。
ヨミ。
重郎、のぼせてしまいます。
He brushed my hand away. I put my hands back in the water. Yomi politely dried himself off and got out of the bath. With one less person and animal, it wasn't just the amount of water. It felt like the bath had lost its warmth. That is a lot more sentimental than he looks. It's a lot more, emotional. My uncle went missing 7 years ago. Both of my parents were killed by a kaiju. Wait, didn't he say that his uncle died 12 years ago? I think that must have been a typo then. I think it must have actually said his parents. You know, the mom and wife. Or sorry, the mom and husband. The husband and wife. The kaiju also attacked the nearby boy and severely wounded him. That boy was Yomi. Huh? Why would this guy be... No, that's impossible. Wait, 7 years ago? Let me see. Kaiju also attacked the nearby... Oh no, this is 12 years ago. So, okay. I'm guessing kaijus were... no. Someone... This alien is possessing Yomi's body then, I guess. After being left in such an awful state, he had lost both his speech and memory. My uncle took Yomi in and raised us both like we were his own children. We were best friends. We were family. We were brothers. And yet Yomi never saw us as equals. Sometimes that formality felt like an invisible wall. Duh, of course you're not equal. He controls all of the kaijus. After I got out of the bath, I headed for the front door. Yomi's shoes were gone. That's a nice house. I really like the mansion that actually is in Japan rather than the mansions that you typically see outside of Japan, guys. I actually like it when you have a gate like this and then a garden inside, and then everywhere else is just, you know, it's really nice. Probably my ideal house if I were to buy a house. But that would be super fucking expensive. Taro was running around the hallway in front of the living room. His stubby tail wagged as he looked up at me. There was a hot meal waiting for me on the low table. It was Taro's favorite beef steak.
落ち着きたまえ。これが君の憧れるヒーローの姿だ。彼も全て覚悟の上だ。怪獣を倒す者が怪獣に言わされても文句は言えない。僕も腹の底は君と同じだ。これ以上仲間を。
Said, I hear Nakama. The film cut off. The lights went out at the same time, and I was left in the room alone. When I turned around, I saw the crew rushing to adjust equipment. There had been a power outage. I closed the script and left the booth.
ごめんね、十郎さん。
The snow was falling harder than it was this morning. City traffic and the power outage were probably all due to the heavy snow. The assistant director, who left to find out what was going on, came back to whisper in the director's ear.
8ステージ横の変電所がショートしたようで。
他からも引いてるはずでしょ
それが千歳の変電所とも連絡がつかず。
This must be the place Yomi was working at.
う。しばらくこのままか。
The warmth from the heater was starting to fade. It wasn't just my body that was getting cold. Chitose's substation. I remember what Yomi said about there being an inspection there. When I went back to my dressing room to wait, I saw Taro in the corner with his health held low.
ジュロ、助けて、抜けない。
God, this thing's useless. Yes, this thing is like the typical mascot that you see in anime or some such. I really don't feel attached to characters like this for the most part. Because it feels like they don't really have a personality of their own. I did get attached to Teddy though in Persona 4 because I do think his character arc was pretty nice.
Thank you.
We'll see whether or not I'll like you, Taro. So far, you're kind of just annoying.
一体どうした？
こっちから気配するの。ビリビリって雰囲気。
He was facing north. All of Chitose was Akira's jurisdiction. I couldn't hear the hero sirens, so I figured he must have already defeated the kaiju, but maybe the snow had stopped the sirens too. Yomi was in danger at the substation. The snow stopped. Akira was the fastest one of us all, so I wasn't worried that he wouldn't make it in time. Normally, anyway. A transmission tower had been knocked over. The untouched sirens remained silent. I couldn't see any kaiju. However, Taro's ears shook, sensing the kaiju. Taro was pointing at a car repair shop.
さやしさんとタロッチラジオで聞いていても立ってもいられなくて
Ayada must be like one of the weaker Icaruses, I'm guessing. The power ranking.
俺っち死ぬけど倒しましたよのろまなりに頑張って走ってきたんすからね。
シン。
I jumped away from the shadow that came falling. She ended up becoming its hostage.
俺っちに構わず
Ew, it looks kind of disgusting. What is that figure?
さやしさん
I didn't know what to do. My attack wouldn't land in time. While I sit there thinking, Akira jumped out. He was breathing heavily as he bore down with his fist. He was pushed back, but his attack put some space between us and the kaiju. We stood in front of Shin to protect him.
触っちゃダメ。この怪獣、電気いっぱい溜め込んでる。よすんだ、ジュロ。
There was a kaiju here. There were people who could transform into superheroes here as well. This wasn't a drama. Story structures and narratives didn't exist here. No, it actually does, considering this is a game, Juro. There is no guarantee that cheap tricks and vain struggles could turn things around. That was why all we could do was throw ourselves at kaiju over and over again until they were dead. Though I do like it when a story doesn't necessarily follow a script that's very easy to predict. All we could do was fight, even if it meant death. The spray of blood turned into a mist of stardust. As the blood splatter began to fade away, Taro finally relaxed. All that was left was the numbness in my body. I figured even that would eventually go away. I turned to Shin and removed the heavy boards from on top of him. As soon as the last board was removed, we all let out a sigh.
シン、てめえ無傷じゃねえか。
あれ恥ずかしい。
Luckily, he had been stuck in a gap. I held out my hand and helped him up. He hopped up cheerfully, but I could tell his smile was bitter behind his mask. Akira was probably the most relieved. Taro growled at Akira as he left, his steps heavy. He barked at him.
アキラ、シンに言うことあるでしょ。
Sorry, I guess, because this was supposed to be his jurisdiction?
やめろ太郎。任された島守れなかったことは謝る。すまねえ、シン。
先輩。
戻りやがれ。
はい。
Shin protected a different area. Akira silently watched Shin leave in a hurry. There was something he needed to say to me, too. You could probably guess.
慣れ合うんじゃねえよ。
Akira pushed me away.
俺もいつかあの男みてえに死ぬんだからよ。
Ooh.
なら言わせてもらう。なぜ遅れた？
Akira could sense a kaiju's appearance and its subtleties. He should have noticed it faster than any of us. He stepped into the slanted rays of light and changed back to normal. Surprisingly, he flashed a wide, innocent smile at me.
内緒。
He then walked away like always. Taro looked back then forth between me and Akira's back and lowered his head. He probably already met up with Shotaro by this point, so I'm guessing Shotaro must be, suspicious maybe. I don't know. He doesn't want to let Shotaro know, right?
思い出すことはあったか？
一個思い出したの。
大きな。
Oh, sorry about that.
太郎、みんなが笑ってるととっても幸せなの。
Who does everyone include, Taro? Who does everyone include? All of the Icaruses? Or all of human race? You gotta define everyone first. Then I can agree with you. I also like it when everyone is smiling. But that only applies to my family. That is everyone to me. Onlookers were nervously peeking into the factory from the entrance. Yomi was among them. Power was returned before the sun went down, and the road home was now safely lit for everyone. Afterwards, I went back to Hiho Studios, acting as though nothing happened. Okay, maybe not including my father, that everyone. I don't know. Maybe just my siblings, in fact. Yeah, it's a very, very narrow amount of people, or a small amount of people, that I consider my everyone. We went back to recording as if everything was normal. The daily appearance of evil kaiju wasn't a good sign. Work ended past 11 at night. I entered a cafe that was already closed and looked toward the counter. Yomi was there putting away the glasses.
ヨミ、無事だったか。
おかげさまで。
Taro jumped onto the counter and snuggled up to Yomi. He let out an unexpected sound when Yomi scratched his back and behind. I saw a sour profile sitting on the couch in the back of the cafe. I was here for him.
遅れてすまない。
I sat down across from his annoyed glare. Disgusted, he averted his eyes toward the window.
んだよ、こんな時間に呼び出しやがって。
近況について話す機会がなかったと思ってな。仕事は順調か？
慣れ合うなっつってんだろ。君悪いんだよ。
ここまで嫌われているとはな。
俺は誰にもへつらわねえ。俺の性格くらい分かってんだろ。
ねえ、アキラ、ジュース飲む？
飲まねえよ、クソ犬。
読み聞きました？
聞きました。
ひどい男だな。
ですね。
ところで、うんち行くから連れてって。
はい。
Just change into a human and go poop in the toilet. He felt better as soon as Yumi picked him up. Or maybe at this point in time, Haru doesn't know how to change into other things yet. Maybe that's what they're trying to say here. Akira yawned, breaking the silence that the two of them left behind.
話してえのはそれだけか。帰らせてもらうぜ。
基地にあった僕のサインがなくなっていた。心当たりはあるか？
どうせ死んだろ。
君が持って行ったと教えてくれた。
あの野郎、大事なもんだったのかよ。
It was an extra autograph. It was my fault for bringing my work to the base.
いや、ただ誰の手に渡ったか気になっただけだ。
He had started to get up, but he sat back down. He wasn't the type to lie. I could tell he was nervous from his behavior alone.
欲しいっつうやつがいるからあげちまったんだよ。
正体を明かしたのか？
なわけねえだろ。
He leaned his mouth against his hands as his eyes wandered.
で、返せって？
欲しいっつうやつとはいいものか？
いいやつだ。
なら安心した。
Just an autograph? Why do you care so much about it? Guess he's afraid that if it's a bad person, they're gonna sell it? What else can you do with an autograph? I guess you can kinda copy the autograph and make it seem like, you know, you can sign other people's documents if they know your autograph, but come on, it's kind of easy to tell when stuff is forged, right? I don't know though, maybe not. I don't know. What else can you do with an autograph? He was stuttering, but I could tell from his flushed face that it was someone he was interested in. I wasn't going to ask him any more about it, but...
そいつ、てめえに憧れてやんの。
It was rare for him to start a conversation.
てめえみたいな俳優になりたいんだとよ。
I'd show.
相手は男か？
ああ。
いくつだ？
どうでもいいだろ。てめえは俺の親父か。
He was getting a lot more flustered than usual. It didn't sound like this person was just a friend either. I could tell he was jealous and that he was trying to keep this person from me.
遅れた原因はその青年か？
だからなんだっつんだよ。雪かき手伝ってました。
そうか。
I wasn't going to push him. I just wanted to see how he was doing, like I mentioned earlier. He scooted back into the sofa. He must have thought I was scolding him. He suddenly covered his face, then muttered something from between the gaps in his fingers.
男を好きになっちまった場合は、しかもそいつが怪獣だった場合は、
相手は君をどう思っている？
多分好き。
Yeah, this is before they actually become boyfriend and girlfriend, so this is like super early in the timeline.
それは錯覚だ。相手が何だろうが君を好きになるきっかけにアルマゲドンでもない限り。
てめえ俺のこと嫌いだな。
客観的な意見だ。
Personally, I respect you.
とにかくあったんだよ、アルマゲドンが。それを俺が助けて。
He saved a kaiju.
ほっとけよ。
His leg shaking reached its limit. He gave into his anger and stood up. He passed Yomi and Taro. Yomi looked surprised when he saw his face.
アキラさん。
目覚めた。次はあんなヘマしねえ。
Isn't that kaiju just teasing you? Was that why he wouldn't finish off any of them? He never finished off the kaijus? Huh. I thought he killed kaijus in one blow. I heard his Geta stumble down the stairs. His sputtering motorcycle shook off his hesitation. Yomi was looking at the door in a daze, snapped back to his senses when Taro poked him.
アキラさんって不思議ですね。大人のような、子供のような。
そういうのを老け顔っていうの。
No, I don't really think he looks that old. I mean, he's 19, so I guess for his age it is old. He had been taken in by the Yakuza when he was young and was being raised as a hitman. His gang tried to recruit kaiju, but failed and collapsed. Very few people knew about his past.
ですがなんだかんだ、重郎のことを信頼しているようですよ。なんたって、あなたが彼を助けたんですから。
And probably gave him that power too, right? I think he talked about this very briefly in the first chapter. What was the thing that he got from Juro? That had been a bet. I had the power to transform into Icarus. When I shared my blood with him, I had no idea if his body could handle it. Now, Akira could use those powers better than anyone else. As a result, though,
アキラに負担をかけすぎた。イカロスを増やそうと思う。
the number of evil kaiju was increasing. Then there was also the white Icarus that was after me. Yeah, this is probably when we got that other chick that's supposedly Hayata's girlfriend. We needed to get stronger. Relying on my friends was running them ragged. I wanted Akira and Shin's hearts to recover. Kind words weren't going to heal them. They needed time and money.
応援しています。
Yomi's words were cold.
家まで送ろ
自分は片付けがありますから。
There was a used teacup by my hand. He smiled a little sarcastically.
う。また世話になる。
はい。くれぐれもお気をつけて。
君もだ。
He helped me with my jacket. As I was going down the stairs, I suddenly felt eyes on me.
ジュロ
傘になってくれ。
バイクじゃなくて
No, yeah, he can already change into something, so no. It's not as if Taro can't change into anything, right? We first saw him as an umbrella in this chapter. So ignore my thoughts about how he's not able to turn into something else and then poop. This guy is just a lazy piece of shit. He transformed into a white umbrella. I picked him up and hid myself under it like usual. It wasn't that far from Soshigaya to my house in Seijo. Should I try giving them the slip while I walk? Or try to find them instead? I also don't know where the house Seijo is, guys. I could still feel someone following me. A car passed by. A thin woman got out from the back seat.
十郎くん
Who are you? Madam. I held the umbrella over her so the light snow wouldn't get her wet. Her black eyes narrowed as she touched my hand. Her wrinkled hand was warm. The driver jumped out carrying an umbrella.
舞台の帰りなの。あなたはどちらへ？
僕もキロです。
送るわ。すぐそこでしょうけど、夜道は危ないわ。
She coughed. I dropped my umbrella and held her hands. Taro rolled down the cold snow-covered road. I wanted to pick him up right away, but I didn't let go of her frail hand as I helped her back into the car. I tapped my heel against Taro's handle. He turned into a long cord and wrapped himself around my ankle. This lady Takamine. Her chest must have hurt. She shook with cuffs over and over again. He seemed to care for her quite a lot. I could tell from the way the driver seemed worried but remained calm that she was constantly dealing with pain. By the time we reached her house, her wheezing had stopped, and she had pushed my hand away several times. Nevertheless, she let me take her up to bed and gave me a shy smile like a young girl.
手間取らせてごめんなさい。
Is there actually no voice line there? Yeah, wow. Sometimes the game actually doesn't have a voice line. I'm guessing the coding must have messed up.
どうかもう帰って。
I tightened my grip around her hand while she gratefully closed her eyes.
毎週イカロスのドラマを見ているの。
ご婦人には退屈でしょ
楽しいわ。十郎くんこんなに大きくなったのねって。まるで自分の子供みたいに思ってるのよ。
I don't know about that. She cherished her former role. I did too.
う。体が良くなった暁にはどこかへ行きましょ
She like our mom in a separate drama? Back when she was younger?
ええ、
う。付き添います。
ありがとう。しんいちさん。
That's our dad. I remember that being said before, somewhere. I think it was either in Chotsugai's chapter or show. I think it was Chotsugai's though. She muttered my father's name as a tear fell down her cheek. I couldn't find the right words. Even holding her hand was just me copying a scene from a movie. Even if I wanted to watch her while she slept, I couldn't find the right lines. Do you even need to read it to say anything? You can just watch her sleep, if that's really what you want. I heard her quiet snoring in response. She must have been dreaming about my father. I gently slipped my hand out of hers and left her house.
太郎、
He had turned into an umbrella, but he wouldn't open. I held him under my arm and walked down the street lit by the snow. My steps were cut off by a flash of light. I saw a figure hiding in the shadows.
眠っていたまえ。
This guy, I guess? Oh no, it's Miyamoto. No sound for this too, but this makes a lot of sense. Or this makes sense because usually the things that are set in like brackets are when they're talking to themselves. It's a monologue. It's an internal monologue. It's just
男が
Miyamoto.
相手ってんで、そりゃあ驚いたね。
Just go.
監督、あんた酔っ払った筆に踊らされたんじゃねえのって。でもごらん、相手にあんたの名前があった。そして最後にチッするとある。銀幕スターの唇を男の足がいいのかね。
So this is the guy that got killed or something when Chotsugai was trying to take the picture? Maybe?
生半可じゃいけねえと思ったね。よし、今回は俺が女だ。俺が女になるんだって。毎朝頬叩いてよ。女みてえに赤くしてるよ。よろしく頼むよ。
はい。
おいじゃあまた、十郎くん。
He flashed a smile at me and then left my dressing room. I sank to my knees and turned back to the script. I was being cast as the first male Madonna in the Everyone Has It Rough series. The lead, Go, was like that even behind the scenes. He hated when things got tense, so he'd been pacing around my dressing room. He had the guts to be chairman, but then there were the people who liked tension like me. As soon as I dove back into the script, the door opened again.
どうも
Miyamoto? I couldn't bring myself to face her devious smile.
はじめまして、女性ナインの宮本ウランと申します。昨晩、高峰修子の自宅から出てきましたよね。高峰監督は不在で奥様しかいないはずですが、あれれあれれ
Director. Is the director that old guy? The one that turned into a kaiju after he scolded, you know, Kagome about not being intense enough as a kaiju?
無視？
She stepped on the tatami with her shoes and sat on top of the table I was looking at. Wow, that's very rude. I wrenched the script out from under her butt. She spread her legs wide and gave me a suggestive look.
ずっと無防備。自分の立場分かってる？太陽仮面のイカロスだよ。この写真、どうにかしてほしかったらここへ来て。
She handed me a photo of Madam. It was definitely from last night. There was an address written on the back. She laughed when my eyes gave away that I recognized it. Her shoes clacked loudly as she left. I folded up the script as soon as the door closed. I placed sorrow on top of it as a paperweight.
気にするな。
I wasn't afraid of losing anything. Not my pride, my status, or my fame. Not even my life. Then what are you afraid of, then? Sure you're not afraid of anything? People who say shit like this usually are kind of bullshitting themselves. Even I'm afraid of losing my life, and I don't care about most things. Once filming was over, I got dropped off at the back alley in Shibuya. The address she wrote down was the location of some sketchy club. I got off the elevator and looked around at the seating from the entrance. The seats were surrounded by dark pink curtains. I could hear the voices of young women and old men coming from each other. When I mentioned Miyamoto's name, a waiter led me to the back. The shady atmosphere made the fan at my waist tremble. Haro wagged his tassel, as if he wanted to say something when I petted him to calm him down. Miyamoto was sitting alone under a canopy. Is Miyamoto really this devious of a person? This chapter sure makes her look like very villainous. There were several open bottles of alcohol nearby. She invited me to sit next to her, but I sat across from her instead. Remember that she actually does like Icarus during Chotsugai's chapter. But I guess she was bullshitting?
何飲む？何好き？
水でいい。
ふーん。
Or maybe this is her before she met up with Chotsugai? I don't know. We'll see.
つまんねえ男。
Alcohol was something you drank with someone you trust. That didn't apply to her. When you're lobbying someone, you actually don't... That doesn't apply to when you're lobbying someone. I looked straight at her so she would get to the point. She stared back, then grinned.
私と目合いましたよね。レンズ越しに。
ああ。
どうして追ってこなかったんですか？
それで報酬をもらっている君のことを考えたら、放っておくのが善と思った。
さすがお坊ちゃま。頭のネジが外れてる。まあ、勘違いしないでくださいね。私これでもイカロスの大ファンですから。私が欲しいのはお金です。
She handed me a check with a sum of money written on it. She was kind enough to make it out to herself. All I had to do was sign it. I took the pen and signed it on the edge of the table.
話が早くて助かります。
I exchanged the check for the negatives. However, she grabbed them back before my fingers could touch them.
おっと、入金の確認後、事務所の方にお送りしますね。
君はなぜこの仕事をしている？
なぜって曲がったことが大嫌いだからです。仕事を体で取るようなあなたも、あなたを買った高峰修子もみんな気に食わないので。
So, they actually had sex? How old is that grandma? Holy fuck. So Miyamoto already knew about this and he was, or she was, just bullshitting Chotsugai, huh? Or maybe this is a misunderstanding? I don't know.
天に誓って彼女はやましいことをしていない。
Okay, yeah, this is a misunderstanding.
僕もだ。
嘘つき。
No? Her fake smile vanished and exposed a dreadful face.
これが何だかわかりますか？イカロス第13話、ウサギちゃんが持っていたカバンと同じものです。 弟たちがプレゼントしてくれました。子供はあなたたちが思うよりずっと深くテレビを見ているの。これに懲りたら汚い真似はしないでください。
I don't get it. She didn't come after me because she hated me personally. Besides, if I could calm her down with just a few words, I had no intention of making excuses.
わかった。
はーい、もういいです。
It's a very confusing start of the chapter. Was that not good enough for her? Suddenly, there was a scream at the entrance. The vulgar laughter turned into a commotion as everyone turned to look in the same direction. Someone shouted, "A kaiju!" Instantly, it got quiet. Afterwards, everyone was pushing against each other to escape. She took out a camera from her bag and went against the flow of the crowd.
戻りたまえ。
誰があんたなんかと一緒にいるか。
Haro looked up at me.
気配するの。タプタプって雰囲気。
There was an awful stench. I wasn't able to make out the kaijus form yet. I kneeled next to the table and waited for the noise to die down. Shibuya was my jurisdiction. I transformed into Icarus and searched the area with my heightened senses. Its stench had made 3 people pass out. Yeah. That's supposed to be a bunny something? A bunny sewer black thing? Across from them was a black kaiju. The kaiju had most likely changed against its will. Its steps were shaky. It had no idea what it had become. I needed to defeat it before it killed anyone. My steps were silent as I picked up the unconscious people. Miyamoto was one of them.
僕が怪獣の気を引く。太郎はその隙に彼女たちをエレベーターへ乗せてくれ。
Yeah, he's actually not using his powers to, kill people who are clearly a hindrance to him. If I was in his shoes, I'd probably just let Miyamoto die to this kaiju before I killed it or something. Or maybe he's a lot more righteous than I give him credit for. Haro shouted a little too enthusiastically. The kaiju turned its eyes toward us.
気にするな。
He turned into a car and zoomed toward the elevator. He threw the 3 people inside and pressed the button with his forepaw. That should do it.
あれ、ない。私のカバン。
I approached the kaiju, but its strength was overwhelming and was making my consciousness fuzzy. Okay, even though he does have his own righteousness, he's still taking his money and the negatives. Was the kaiju making me hallucinate? Even if I held my breath, I could feel its poison sinking in. I swung my arms and legs, but every time I hit it, more of its noxious stench came spraying out. We were underground without any windows. I wouldn't be able to drive it outside like this. I needed to find the kaiju's weakness. Miyamoto. Why had she come back? Okay, maybe she actually did just drop it. Her face immediately twisted from the stench. She ran toward the table we were at earlier with a determined look on her face.
君
She went behind the beast. The startled kaiju. I didn't make it in time to guard her. A liquid melted my right hand and half of her body. What? Oh, is this why she became... No, she's not a kaiju though. She did say she got a dick, but she didn't say she was a kaiju. The kaiju released all of its fluids, causing it to shrink. Wait, is she an Icarus? It easily went flying when I kicked it. Oh my god. It stopped when it hit a curtain. Did he actually give her blood? It suddenly turned into particles of light, then vanished along with its smell. Whatever injuries I incurred while I was in my transformation would heal and disappear. But if the average person suffered this...
めっちゃ暑いんですけど。ドロドロじゃん。
Pain that was too strong no longer felt like pain. She smiled with half her body gone.
私のカバン知りません。ま、 探してくれるわけないよね。
Haru dragged her purse over with the strap in his mouth. He dropped it in her right hand and licked her fingers in an effort to bring her some comfort.
君の命をもらっていいか。本物のヒーローになる覚悟はあるか。
すでにヒーローやってるつもりなんですけど。
I don't know, you look kind of villainous when you were threatening Juro there, Miyamoto. There was no more than 10 seconds left of her life. I slit my palm and let a drop of blood fall into her eye. I shared the power of Icarus with Akira and Shin like this too. I was no longer worried about whether anyone could handle it or not. I agreed with her sense of justice. That was why I was certain her life would respond to it. I mean, she was willing to expose the darkness, right? The secret darkness, so that people who believed in Icarus in the drama would understand that he was a fake. At least it was a misunderstanding though, from what I think it is. But we'll see. Her wounds began to heal. Her cells immediately began to reconstruct her arm and body. Her limbs weren't the only thing to return. Her face twisted with pain, then she passed out.
生きてる。
ああ、
よかった。
敵にならないことを祈るばかりだ。
She had the photograph of me and Lady Takamine. Honestly, it was a beautiful shot of us at night in the snow. Lady Takamine didn't have much longer. I was immensely grateful she managed to capture what could possibly be my final moment with her. This guy is way too sentimental for his own good. Haru's headlights were pointed up today.
また一個思い出したよ。
So the reason why he doesn't want to do that was because he knows that that girl doesn't have much left to live.
聞かせてくれ。
タロね、なんとですね。絵描くの好き。
そうか。
おっきなせいおっきな成果だ。
This guy's useless. He was in a good mood. I didn't even say it myself.
遅れてすみません。
Jin bowed repeatedly. Miyamoto being an Icarus, huh? That's an interesting development. After bowing a few times, he noticed the silence and tilted his head confused.
おいしい。座れ。
へい。
てめえにちょっと聞きてえことがある。
I'm surprised we actually don't know anything about Shin, though. We know about Kozuka's past now, but I wonder if we get to know deeper about Shin, considering he's also an Icarus.
そりゃいいんだ。
え？声ちっさくねっすか？
えっちってどう誘えばいい？
え？
何度も言わすんじゃね
エッチ？
え。だからどうしたらそういう雰囲気に持っていけるかって聞いてんだ。
先輩、まさか彼女さんできたんですか？わーい、パチパチ。
First, you actually marry them. That's what I would have said to your face, Kozuka.
うるせえな。
そりゃまずおっぱい触るでしょ。で、ささやいちゃうでしょ。ボインちゃんだねって。
それってどなんだし。
ワンちゃんの場合は上から2段目のおっぱいっす。
わからない。
ボインちゃんじゃねえ場合は？
母性本能が強いから母音なのでこの手は使えないっすね。
意外と計算高いなシン。
俺がでっかくしてやるよ。手ささやきながら揉んでください。
別にちっせえまんまでいい場合は。
You could just say it's a guy, you know?
お、アキラ照れてる。ヤミ見て、アキラ照れてる。
This game is so weird because I actually thought that, you know, the game not wanting to pronounce that people were gay in in this timeline was because it was actually not very accepted during this time period in Japan. But no, it's not like that. It's just weird. It's like they're kind of afraid of this mentality that guy on guy action is not accepted. Like, no one cares, really. I think that no one actually cares anymore in Japan in the modern day.
ごめんなさい。ちょっと手が離せず。
Yomi was making tea in the kitchen.
ウケます先輩。大きいからおっぱいって言うのに。
They're just fat, you know, Hayata.
ちっぱいのが可愛いだろ。
ね、ヨミッチはどう思います？
おいヨミ。
そうですね。母乳量は乳腺に関係するので、見栄えによる生物学的優劣は何とも。
んだそれ。
重郎はどう思いますか？
重郎、こいつらおっぱいのことしか考えてない。今から作戦会議なのに。
すまん、聞いていなかった。
There was a knock on the door. Shin counted everyone present, then looked confused. The knocks were replaced by the sound of someone's footsteps slowly coming down the stairs.
でかっ。
Is she actually going to be the girl that camouflaged as Hayata's girlfriend? But that can't be though. Their personality is too different. And I don't think that she would hook up with Hayata if she had Sapphire. She took off her sunglasses. It was Uran Miyamoto.
来てあげましたけど。
新しいイカロスだ。
どうも。
女の子。ほら先輩、あれがおっぱいですよ。目を覚ましてください。
アキラ鼻くそほじらないの。君は？
早田真です。しんちゃんって呼ばれてます。
誰も呼んでねえよ。
私は宮本ウランちゃんって呼んでね。
ひょウランちゃん。
She picked a seat between Akira and Shin. Her sparkling round eyes turned in the direction of Akira's cold demeanor. She looked like a child who had found a new toy.
君、ジェリーなんだって？階段の上まで聞こえてたよ。
ああ。
しんくんも交えて3人でお勉強会する？
And you're gonna have an STD at some point, Miyamoto.
するする。
しねえよボケカス。
ワンちゃんもこの前はカバンありがとね。よろしく太郎くん。
Oh, sorry about that. Didn't think that it would be that long. Yomi set out 5 cups of tea for everyone. He greeted them with a smile. I had already spoken to him about Uran and vice versa. Lastly, Uran looked at me and winked. I inexplicably lowered my eyes and focused my attention on the fragrance of the tea.
総裁、またイカロスが活躍したそうです。民衆によって美化されたイカロスの活躍。
So this is Burai.
その羽を溶かしてやるのが待ち遠しい。
The leader is question mark. We actually don't know who the leader is.
待つ必要などありましょうか。一刻も早い粛清を。このままでは怪獣たちの不満が募り、暴動も起きかねません。
それはさぞ美しい光景でしょう。
先導者は我々でなくては。今こそ我にイカロス撃墜の命を。総裁。
あなたでは勝てませんわ。彼らは強い。ですが、私たちにはとっておきがある。
おお。
ですわね、総裁。
Who is this? Well, I guess the leader is Yomi, but this is weird.
総裁？
寝ているな。
総裁。おはようございます。
と言っても真夜中ですが。
また寝てしまわれた。
十郎さん、あとは頼みました。
It's our dad? No, it can't be.
みんなをあいつをどうか。
ヨミ、
Light was reflecting off the snow. Icarus scripts were scattered all over the floor. I looked at them one by one until I remembered I had been dreaming. I must have laid down and fallen asleep.
すまない。
うなされていました。
何時だ？
朝の5時です。これから撮影だと太郎に聞きました。起こしに来たんです。
I didn't have an assistant. Yomi seemed to be worried about that and would fuss over me like this at times.
少し熱があるようです。
夢を見ていた。
And I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to pause the recording because my neighbor was using his grinder. He was using it for a solid minute. I dreamt of Gorohachi's voice as he was engulfed in flames. It's Gorohachi.
イカロスの台本を読むとダメだな。あの時のことを思い出す。苦痛だ。
The dramatic parts. The parts that reminded me that miracles didn't exist. It made me feel disillusioned.
やめたい。
He wrapped his arms around me. His heartbeat was right in front of me. He was trying to comfort me. But when I thought about how I might someday lose this sound too, fear instantly takes over.
あの時、僕はどうしたらよかったのか。
I mean, you gotta tell me what happened first. The white Icarus had been weakened. It had been the perfect opportunity to defeat him. But I had jumped into the elevator. The injured people inside no longer had the strength to operate the buttons. By the time I had reached the roof, everyone was dead. I wanted to justify my choice of leaving Gorohachi behind and being the only one to survive. I wanted the proof that I had saved someone. That was what I was thinking when I shared Icarus's blood with Akira.
あなたが苦しむことをゴロハチさんは望んでいないと思います。
I mean, I don't have any righteousness inside of me, guys, so I do not understand, Juro's feelings whatsoever. I don't care about this Gorohachi. I don't care about people that are dying in front of me. You know? I'm that sort of person.
彼は最後に何と言いましたか？
あとは頼んだと。
そうです。あなたはみんなを託されたのです。
みんな。
Is Gorohachi though?
おやすみなさい、ジュロ。
That's the most important question.
あと10分だけでも体を癒して。
My father, Shinichi Tsuyashi, was the Red Icarus. I'd been racing down the path that had been laid out for me ever since I could remember, and could never veer off of it. I wouldn't have minded doing so, even if I would crash and burn. But Yomi was on that path too, so I couldn't escape. What do you mean he was on that path? I was shocked to see how I looked when I transformed for the first time. I wanted to be Red Justice, but I was covered in black, like a villain. Black doesn't mean villain, and red doesn't mean justice. I wore a red suit on stage when playing Icarus. Who even gave, colors the meaning of, their own meaning anywhere? People back when I was younger, they would say that purple is the color of widows. Who actually was the one that defined those colors' true nature? It's humans too, isn't it? Objectively, colors have no meaning. Just put meaning into them. I wore a red suit on stage when playing Icarus. I was a fake Icarus punching fake kaiju. 'Kaiju. 'That twisted image suddenly felt ridiculous. 'Kaiju. 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 I went back to my dressing room during my lunch break. When I closed the door, Taro jumped out like a rabbit.
ヨミがね、お昼のご飯持ってきてくれるって。
そうか。
ジュロが元気ないからね、心配してるの。ビフテキかな、ビフテキかな。
君とヨミはよく通じているからな。願えばそうなるだろう。
ビフテキ、ビフテキ。
今からでは遅いだろうがな。
It was 11 o'clock. If he was heading over here, he probably already left the house. There was a loud knock on the door. Taro's face sparkled, but then immediately tensed.
賃来券です。出前をお持ちしました。
Yeah, see? Yamoto isn't, this girl.
ありがとう。
あたい、藤子って言います。配達担当が変わったので、ご挨拶に。
She placed the bowl down with a thud. It looks delicious. The soup was clear and delicious. There was so much steam it was blurring my vision. Yomi must have had it delivered. This was how he could make me eat without doing it himself.
あら?
She suddenly looked into my face.
あんた、ちゃんと食べれてないね。
She tapped my spine, making me sit up straight. She looked stern as if she found a new enemy.
俳優さんだろ? 忙しくても食べなきゃダメだよ。体が資本。せっかくスタイルいいのにもったいないよ。
She grabbed my hair this time and forced my face right in front of the soup. It was like she was making me apologize to the ramen. She forced chopsticks in my hand and lifted me up a little. When I tried to let go of them, she forced me back down again. I could see Taro, who had changed into a piece of furniture, sweating nervously from the corner of my eye. She finally yelled out, "Dig in," and watched me eat until I drank the last of the broth.
よーく頑張ったね。
What an overbearing person. You sure this girl is fit to be a delivery woman?
まずいでしょ
う。まずいな。
うちを頼むなんてどうかしてるよ。
Something felt off, but I was feeling feverish and couldn't think straight. Fujiko Fuji put the bowl away and cheerfully left. She tried to leave anyway. Yomi was standing in front of the door, his black eyes narrowed. What the?
なんだよあんた、葬式帰りかい？
お弁当。
もしかしてあたい、控室間違えた。
Yeah, most likely. She immediately went outside and checked the name.
あんた、鞘師十郎？いい食べっぷりだったわ。大変。
She bumped into a bunch of crates as she ran off. Well, it was more like she was running away. I mean, I think that people would know who the hell Juro is, considering superheroes are supposed to be the in thing in the world. Yomi shuffled into the dressing room as she watched her leave. He then placed a heavy bag she had mistaken for an urn on top of the table.
知ってる。これおせちだ。
そうです。
なぜ?
He grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me.
自分以外が作った料理なんてどんなものが添加されているか。
十郎が望むなら殺しますが。
What the hell is wrong with this guy?
なぜそうなる?
十郎苦しめ。
Yomi's pupil shrank even smaller. I could see myself reflected in those small black eyes, looking more flushed than usual. My body felt a little lighter too. The ramen was nasty, but maybe it was worth it if it was this effective. I don't think they actually put in any medicinal herbs in the ramen. It must have been just stinky ramen. While I was lost in thought, Yomi was slowly backing away until I collapsed in the corner of the room.
君の料理にはかなわない。
十郎では証明してください。
What? You're gonna have to make me eat again? My stomach has a limit. That's a capacity.
当然だ。
God, are everyone that's with me like this overbearing? He needed fresh fish into kamaboko. Kamaboko is fish cake. I don't know why they didn't translate that. He had carefully selected the farm-fresh black beans. He explained all this with a dead look on his face. I ate it all like he wanted, but his smile hadn't returned.
それでは。
ありがと
ヨミが焦るの初めて見た。
へっちゃらですよ。
He unenthusiastically pumped his fist in the air. I couldn't bring myself to keep watching Yomi totter away back home. He turned around before he turned down a corner. He waved like a flame on the wind. Thanks to Fujiko Fuji and Yomi, I was able to make it through the afternoon. The leading lady, Kyoko Wakabayashi, wasn't looking so good, so the ramen was probably meant for her. Still, that woman. She said she was a delivery girl. She was covered in fresh bruises. I couldn't imagine she got those injuries from a delivery accident or from cooking. There weren't too many women that had what it took to be a hero.
Oh, 来てくれたんだ。
The siren was going off at the south end of Setagaya Street, Oron's designated jurisdiction. Okay, I thought the game froze because my audio interface messed up there.
手伝おう。
It was Kanuta Park at night. It was busy during the day, but mostly empty at night. It might have been careless, but it wasn't a bad place for a fight. Suddenly, we heard another set of footsteps.
さやしさん、ウランちゃん、
シン、なんか雰囲気違う。
ここは俺にお任せください。
へえ、私の初陣は
怪獣退治は危険です。ね、任せて。
Just trying to show off?
かっこつけるな。
タロ君、心配ありがとう。
連携が大事だ。油断するな。
はい。さやしさんもお怪我を悪くしないよう。
Okay, the volume kind of went low again because it was messing up there. I turned it back up again. I was wondering why it was so low in my headphones.
怪我してんの？
それではいざ。
A ramen restaurant cub went speeding by.
あれも私たちの仲間？
いや、民間ヒーローだろう。
Local superheroes could register with their own wards. Anyone could be a superhero as long as they passed the fitness and costume durability test.
先を越されてたまるか。
めっちゃ遅。
Guess that's Fujiko. Jin also used to be a hero like that. He was fired after they found out he lied about his age. But his fiery determination to defeat kaiju spurred him on to become a real superhero.
太郎、今回の怪獣は
Did I say fiery? Fury.
なんかムラムラって雰囲気。
It. Typo.
超嫌。
We both transformed. It's a beetle. A six-legged kaiju crawled on top of the grass. There were ground-up stray dogs and police lights scattered around in the distance. The shock from being attacked by stray dogs must have made him change into a kaiju. Oran and I hid among the trees and trusted Shin, who said he could take care of it. Each kaiju had their own strange abilities. This one didn't seem all that ferocious. Suddenly, that local hero from earlier fell to her knees. Oh my god. My tongue was like going places trying to say that word. Her limbs trembled. She seemed to be charmed by the kaiju.
あんた邪魔っすよ。えらくビビっちゃって、それでもヒーローっすか。あんたもそこで俺っちの勇姿を。
What happened?
手足が取れねえっす。
Oh, that's his power.
ねえ、シンくんってなんでヒーローになったの？
彼の姉は怪獣だった。民間ヒーローに残虐な方法で殺された過去を持つ。自身もヒーローとなることで怪獣の安楽に努めていたが。
壮絶なナレーション、今やめて。
A more humane death, huh? How do you actually kill humanly? What, just by chopping their head so that they don't feel the pain? What, by stabbing their heart so they die instantly? Is that what you call humane? Killing is killing people, no matter how you try to do it. He was cautious, maybe even a coward, but that was what made him strong. Unfortunately, Shin lacked the power of observation. He was probably under the kaiju's control after looking in its eyes. I'd end this, I thought.
鞘師さん来ないでください。この怪獣は俺っちが倒します。
The rings around his arm shone gold. Don't look gold to me, they look just white. He cut off his wrists and lifted himself from the ground.
痛いっすけど後でチャラになるんで。
でも動けないのは変わんないよ。
His feet were still stuck on the ground. Knowing Shin, though, he could overcome this obstacle. He shot an L-shaped beam of light from his crossed arms. Yeah, this is so Ultraman.
マジっすか？眩しくてよく見えねえっす。
もっと下。
The local superhero from earlier shouted her instructions to Shin. He readjusted the position of his arms and shot right through the kaiju's eye.
聞いてます？
聞いてる聞いてる。
早くなくなってください。
Yeah, he's even doing the Ultraman pose when he's trying to do the laser. Shin didn't fight kaiju because he hated them. He wanted to stop kaiju before they could hurt anyone and become a target for resentment. The only way he could do that was to stand up to them himself. The only way was to injure himself. Blood brighter than the beams of light sprayed the area. That spray immediately faded into the night sky. Shin slowly stood up with his arms dangling at his sides. I rushed over to help him up, but he was celebrating his victory with a cheerful voice.
鞘師さん、タロッチ、ウランちゃん。
よくやった。
すごかったぞ、シン。
はあ、ナムナム。
Shin made sure everyone was okay before letting out a sigh. A relieved smile came to his face from behind the mask as he looked over everyone again.
あ、で、ウランちゃんは？
帰ったよ。
声？
強くなったな。
いや、そうじゃなくて。
すごいぞ、強いぞ。
俺っちのこと何か言ってました？
散乱たる輝きであった。
ウランちゃんってそんな口調でしたっけ？
No? Clearly he's lying. He deflated as he let out a sigh. A figure approached Shin.
さっきのあんた、強かったね。
Her suit was open wide at the chest. It was because of how thoughtlessly open it was that Shin's eyes were glued to them.
熱い。
俺っち、あ、いや、俺、早田真と申します。
These are the games we play, guys.
ヒーローは名乗っちゃいけないんだよ。
自分、イカロスなんで、偽物がビーム撃てますか？
まあ、なんだっていいさ。あたいはそこんとこ詳しくないんでね。
ああ、待って、お名前は？
この胸の傷、よく見ておきな。あたいの勲章さ、せめて覚えていっておくれよ。
I don't think wounds are supposed to be badges of honor, to be honest. But it is what it is. I guess sometimes people like to have things that's a part of their body. But, you know, that reminds them of a specific memory. There's probably another one ready to lay down her life. Jin changed back to normal, then fell to his knees. He bowed in her direction.
ジュロ、また一個思い出したよ。
聞かせたまえ。
ででん、粘土こねるの好き。
大きな成果だ。
へへへ。
Taro began to play in the dirt. Shin was still face down on the ground, trembling with the potential for a new love. Oran was most likely enjoying her new Icarus jumping abilities right now. Why is everyone red but you're black? Yeah. There's gotta be a meaning behind that. The moonlight was especially beautiful tonight. I could clearly see the rabbit pounding mochi.
遅れてすみません。
Why did he turn back into normal and then bow to Fujiko just because she showed off her boobs? Jin, you're retarded. I'm just gonna say that, you're retarded. Yeah, you are a moron, just like what Akira said. Or Kozuka. Jin didn't need to feel guilty anymore, but he apologized anyway. Surprisingly, Akira greeted him cheerfully.
おいシンへえこの前のあれ実践したぜ
あれって何でしたっけ？
おっぱいをこうガッと揉むやつ
アキラ、お前バカなのか？
どうでした？
太郎くん、ほんと男はバカでちゅね。
Clearly it worked if he actually is happy talking about the election.
んだとおっぱい女
何その呼び方。ちょっと興奮する。じゃなくて、もう脈なしどころか脈切ってるから。
まだわかんねえだろうがよ。
自分に置き換えてみなさいよ。嬉しくないでしょ。本当にバカなんだね。
あっちも俺のこと好きっぽいし。
本当に好きなら出会ったその日のうちにエッチするっつーの。
I don't know about that. If someone wanted to have sex with me the first time we dated, I think that she's a slut. And say, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work out. No matter how pretty she is. I mean, if she's like super beautiful, I'd probably say to wait until we get married. But if she's just normal, beautiful, and she just wants my dick, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
そいつはてめえみてえな足軽じゃねえんだ。
Why did he say slat? Is that a typo?
シリガルです先輩。
Oh no, it's not.
次に会える機会があるなら、まず誠心誠意謝りなさい。服を整えなさい。まともな口調になりなさい。インクのついた手、どうにかしなさい。要するに不潔なの。
先輩。
あんたもろくな女抱いてねえくせに気取んじゃねえぞ。
And you're supposed to be a decent woman?
おい、シン、おい。
賑やかになりましたね。
そうだな。
そういえば朝やしくん、浮いた話聞かないけど取られていないだけ？
そろそろ話してもいいんじゃないですか？とんでもない。とても可愛らしい女性ですよ。名前を聞けばきっと驚かれるでしょう。
Everyone turned their eyes toward me. I was the only one looking at the clock. There was a knock. Jin went pale and counted everyone again.
陳来軒です。本当にここで会ってます？
ああ。
あんたの注文かい。それにしてもダサいセットだね。
Fujiko passed out the ramen. I turned it down and glanced at Yomi. That must have meant I could eat it.
さあ、温かいうちにお上がりよ。
Uran immediately stuffed her mouth. Then tears came streaming out of her eyes.
何これ、まずい。
だろう？
Why would you be so happy when it's awful? Is this some sort of medicinal ramen thing?
だろってあなたのお店じゃ。
ごふ汚ねえな。君はなぜヒーローになった？
I questioned her as she was turning to leave. It was obvious I was addressing her. She was trying to pretend like she didn't know what I was talking about, but her sudden silence was my answer. Eventually, Fujiko relaxed and turned toward me.
なんだ、あの時のもあんただったのかい。話したところで何になる？
君次第だ。
Superheroes shouldn't reveal their identities so easily, even if they're amongst other superheroes. From when we talked last night, I could tell she was at least holding onto a grudge.
親父が殺されたのさ。暴漢にね。
Not a kaiju?
人だろうが怪獣だろうが悪いやつを懲らしめたい。それ以外にヒーローやってる理由はないよ。
Well, that's pretty respectable.
そういうあんたらはどうなんだい？
I don't know. I don't really have any dreams.
私もそんなとこ。
明るいね。それじゃあ器は洗って置いといて、明日の朝に取りに来るよ。
君をイカロスに勧誘したい。
さっきからからかうのはよしてくれ。
からかうつもりなら大事な基地に君を呼ばない。
This wasn't a set. I didn't have any attachment to Akira, Shin, Oran, or anyone for that matter. But this was our impenetrable Icarus base. There was still one last seat that needed to be filled.
この前のあんた強かったね。
I didn't do anything though.
ありがとうございます。
Oh, she's talking about Shin.
イカロスになれば、あたいももっと強くなれるのかい？
ああ。
じゃあその話乗ってみようかね。
She gracefully sat down. I leaned toward her and showed her the cut in my palm. When I dripped the blood into her eye, I could tell she was compatible. She was smiling, but
あたいとんでもないとこに来ちまったね。
she settled everything with that one statement. Got a lot of Icaruses. There's a lot more kaiju than us. Her face shot up as she opened up her shirt. The scars she had accumulated were starting to heal. Shin was leaning in closer than everyone else. She said they were her badge of honor, but they were just openings that appeared when she was trying to protect herself during battle. After the shock, she looked a little happy. Embarrassed that her chest was exposed, she began to blush. Now all the seats were filled. Yomi smiled widened most of all as he placed the cup of tea in front of her.
これでイカロスは5人。吉祥の数字ですね。
いいりゃん算数、一気通貫狙ってこうぜ。
Speaking Chinese. It's not Rian, by the way, it's Er.
またまじゃん。
ウーまで揃ったところで、皆さんにお渡ししたいものが。
There were small round balls in Yomi's hands.
セル
いえ、お守りです。
Oh, this must be the thing that made him able to control them, I think. I don't know though, we'll see. He handed one to everyone but me. Yomi swallowed the fifth one, then gave me a knowing look.
通信機の効能を持つようです。
ガンようですってさ。
Akira swallowed it with a second thought. Shin and Fujiko were next. Finally, Oran swallowed hers. These guys are way too easygoing. Why aren't they skeptical at all about what the hell they're putting inside of their body? So that's the tattoo. Did we really see a tattoo with Oran-chan? Or Miyamoto? I don't actually remember. Yomi rolled up his shirt and a black sun appeared on his stomach.
直接脳に語りかけられる。
すごいですよね。
さっきからなんで他人事なの。
自分もよくわからず。
こんなすごいものどこで。
太郎のお尻から出てきました。
What? While everyone began to gag for the second time today, I held out my hand toward Yomi.
僕の分は
ありません。6つしか出てこなかったんです。太郎に飲ませて様子を見たので、残りはもう。これからは自分が皆さんに出動要請を出します。効率的ですね。
なんだか戦隊ヒーローっぽいね。
戦隊ヒーローですから。
プライベート返して。
And I'm back once again. Sorry about that. Had to mute my mic. Everyone sank down as Yomi cheerfully pumped his fist. But yeah, Sentai heroes are basically Kamen Rider and Power Rangers, basically. Those type of shows. I shudder, well, mostly Power Rangers. I don't think Kamen Rider is that type of show. I think Kamen Rider and Ultraman are like tokusatsu or whatever they're called. I shuddered when I heard Yomi had gotten his license. He was surprisingly terrible with machinery and wouldn't pay much attention to conversations about electronic appliances. I heard he was fired from his job as an electrician, but I wasn't especially surprised. That was why I was prepared to have this car totaled one day. Those were my thoughts while I was shaken around by Yumi's driving. I held back a yawn. When I let one out as a sigh, Yumi's dry lips opened.
眠っていてください。
眠れば君がいなくなる気がする。
そんなこと。
I opened my eyes a bit and watched the lights from the buildings moving inside the car. I wonder if I were to love someone, that would be a sense of anxiety that I'd feel. You know, the fact that they would die first before me. Words said while half asleep tend to hold some truth.
別で暮らすと言われた時は嫌われたかと思ったぞ。だがこうしてそばにいてくれると助かる。
そういう言葉は自分ではなく、のぞみさんにお伝えください。
That.
分かっていても、言葉にされると嬉しいものですから。
The car went down Tanimachi Junction and headed toward Hibiya. I don't know where those are. I prayed that we'd crash somewhere.
コンサートへ君も来てくれ。
今夜は流星群の予報で。
明日ではダメなのか？
The car stopped.
はい。
君に望みを紹介したい。
テレビ越しに存じていますから。
彼女も会いたがっている。せめて待っていてくれ。帰りを送ってほしい。
そこまでおっしゃるなら。
Yomi's eyebrows lifted helplessly when I gave him a pleading smile. He parked the car by the stage door of the concert hall.
それでは後ほど。
タロも行く。
ダメですよ。
The concert was halfway through. Cheers from the audience grew even louder. Like an idol? I was led to a dressing room at the side of the stage where I could watch the concert on a monitor. Nozomi was clad in a white dress. Someone once said that dressing innocently only attracts people more. Does it? When she bowed her head, the audience's cheers went up an octave. She withdrew from the screen. There were voices all around her as she got changed for the second half. She came running out of the hectic dressing room. He looked surprised when we almost bumped right into each other.
Nozomi.
I held up her small frame. I could smell the fragrance of flowers coming from her dress when she hugged me.
来られないと聞いていました。いつからいらしたの？
つい先ほど。
夢を見ているのでしょうか。
There was only one person she was standing on stage in Hibiya. You're really here. She laughed as she embraced me. So is this some sort of political marriage thing? An omiai thing? My face softened when her black eyes looked up at me.
会いたかった。
The stylist came over with her dress. I gently let go of Nozomi and escorted her to the dressing room. I've been dating Nozomi Yoshinaga for 3 years. I'd heard her singing in front of the station. Now she was so famous she couldn't walk around without someone calling her name.
今日はどのようにしてこちらへ？その方は信頼できるお方でしょうか？
Sorry about that, my freaking keyboard, man.
友人の車です。
There we go.
ご覧の通り、望みは長寿。スキャンダルに気をつけてください。
He was probably asking too much for her manager to like me. He politely left the room. I looked back at the monitor and watched her perform. Suddenly, I saw something moving from the corner of my eye. Taro? There was a jacket wriggling on the ground. I lifted it up once it was at my feet and saw shiny orange eyes.
来ちゃった。ジャケット忘れてったよ。
助かる。
I left it there on purpose, but I had a soft spot for Taro and his good intentions. I wrapped him up in the jacket and picked him up. Taro watched Nozomi through the monitor and began to sway.
のぞみ、今日も可愛いの。
The ballad changed key and the tempo sped up. Taro danced in beat with the music. Exhaustion had been creeping up on me. and now I was ready to fall asleep while using Taro as a pillow. But
この感じ。ジュロ、あっちから気配するよ。
in the concert hall, the singing stopped. Fear spread from every corner of the audience as they began to panic. This wasn't good.
チャキチャキって雰囲気。それそれって雰囲気。
Is that a crab?
それに、てんてんって雰囲気。
Does that mean that there's 3 kaijus?
ピーヒャラーって雰囲気。
4 kaijus?
なんでいっぱい？
Yeah, I guess 4 kaijus. Wow. 4 of them had probably conspired together beforehand. They had become kaiju on purpose. As soon as I stood on the stage to give Nozomi a chance to escape, the bright spotlight shone down on me.
イカロス。
The Hibiya hero siren went off. The sirens were to urge people to seek refuge, but the confused audience made no attempt to escape. Instead, they cheered for Icarus. The performance had quickly changed into a superhero show. These idiots! These retards! What the fuck are they doing? The kaiju ignored the audience and Nozomi and headed straight for me. They were thinking clearly. They knew exactly who they needed to attack first. They were aiming for me. I aimed for a head. It was hard. There was no resistance. And yet the kaiju fell on its back and turned into dust. There was no time for confusion. 2 of the kaiju were coming from both above and below. I pulled back my fists and dodged them. 1 kaiju rammed into the other. The 2 of them turned to smoke at the same time. The remaining kaiju didn't look the least bit concerned by its companion's deaths as it attacked me. Is this, are these kaijus already dead and they're being used by Ishiki? There was no life in those eyes. As soon as I swept under its legs, it easily fell over. It turned into dust without resistance like the others. Wow, this is actually voiced, even though it's in brackets. Either way, I defeated all of the kaiju. When I looked around the audience to see if anyone was hurt, they all clapped and praised Icarus. Nozomi was at the side of the stage. Apparently, their applause was being led by her. But, no matter how much light shone, no matter how much they sang my praises, none of it could penetrate my heart. I jumped into the darkness. I mean, who cares about applauses anyway? Why would applause penetrate your heart? Applauding doesn't mean anything. Sure, they might think that you're cool, but who cares? Yomi's eyes shot open as soon as I got into his car.
シンさんが要請に出てくれました。
怪獣はすべて倒した。
それではお戻りになるよ。
閉会まで会場の護衛についてくれ。
重郎はお疲れのようですね。
I could hear Nozomi singing. Even the panic from earlier had turned into excitement as the concert restarted. The kaiju had been strange. There was still pain running through the legs which struck them. Taro was looking at me worried, so I closed my eyes and pretended not to notice. Yomi parked the car under an apartment building.
君、
のぞみさんのお宅です。
そんなのは分かっている。
コンサートを途中で抜け出したこと、電話で詫びるには忍びないかと。
He handed me a large bouquet of flowers. I could tell there had been something on the passenger seat, but that was what he was hiding.
ヨミが選んだの？
はい。
アバンギャルド。
どういう意味でしょ
うI guess something like pretentious?
素敵ってこと。
太郎のお眼鏡にかなうとは嬉しいです。
He got out of the car and politely opened the door for me.
どうぞお降りください。
I accepted the hand he offered and got out like he wanted. A relieved smile came to Yomi's face.
僕より流星を取るのか？
ええ。
He then coldly returned to the driver's seat. He rolled down the window a bit. I could barely hear him through the small gap.
留守は守ります。のぞみさんとどうかゆっくりお過ごしください。
The parking garage she left me in was cold. I headed for the elevator without watching Yomi leave. Now that I was in an enclosed space, I noticed the smell of the bouquet. I lowered the fragrance away from me and leaned against the wall. Nozomi's apartment was on the top floor. She had given me a key, but it wasn't unusual for me to get there before her. I hesitated, turning on the light. The night sky spread out on one end of the room. I was drawn to the contrast between Tokyo Tower and the stars. I thought I saw a shooting star there. I approached the window and laid my hand over the stars. I wondered why Yomi loved those unattainable lights so much. Because those are probably one of those things are probably his actual home.
どうした?
Taro rubbed his head against my legs.
タロ、何も思い出さなかったの。
I'm guessing he remembers something when we actually kill kaijus that he's near? But that kaijus don't count?
さっきの怪獣、きっとイカロスじゃない何かが倒したの。
Or maybe Icarus needs to be the one that killed them. Someone had assisted me.
お腹すいたね。
Wait, was it Yomi then? Was Yomi the one that assisted you? Huh. Could be. I mean, clearly they came there for a reason, right? So the fact, I actually thought that Ishiki was controlling them as some sort of trial run. But I guess Yomi must have been the one that killed them. My uncle used to say hunger is a sign that you worked hard for the day. I mean, I'm always hungry, so I'll take that as a compliment. Well, I'm not always hungry, but I'm usually pretty hungry. Once the hands on my watch pointed straight up, I could hear slow footsteps approaching. She must have seen the lights on the apartment and knew I was here.
来てくれると信じてました。楽屋に、会場に、そしてこの部屋に。
No, you said you were surprised when we got to the concert hall. I glanced over at Taro. He had fallen asleep earlier and didn't seem to be waking up anytime soon.
泡の香りがします。
君からも。
Did I wash up after my fight with those kaijus? I don't think so. But I guess maybe we did in this apartment. Her shock was pure when I ran my fingers through her wet hair. I kissed her softly as to not smudge her light-colored lipstick.
今日は1000年に一度の流星群だそうです。だけど皆さん、私のコンサートへ来てくださった。
星より君が美しいということだろう。
That's... You're killing me, Jiro. You clearly don't mean that. Oh my god, are we actually having sex with a girl? What the fuck? Patreon.com/Azaikyousuke? What? I thought this was gonna be all yaoi stuff. Okay, turns out there are scenes with girls. Wow. Color me surprised. Alright, people on YouTube, I'll see you guys after this. Jeez. So are we not gonna have an H scene with Yomi? I'm actually pretty surprised. What? The reason why I'm saying that is because we actually see her boob here right on the top right. You guys can't see it though. But alright, I guess I'll see you guys after this scene ends. I'm probably also gonna end the episode after that. Jeez, I did not expect this.
私の目は何色ですか？十郎さん、年内で教えてください。
安心したまえ。
Should I really like censor this? I don't know. This might be important. Is she afraid that she's going to be a kaiju or what? Okay, I think I'm not going to I'm not gonna like skip this for you guys. I'm gonna censor the boobies, but this doesn't seem like a hentai scene.
あなたと結ばれなければ怪獣になってしまうだなんて
Wait, what the fuck?
立派な歌手になりますからどうか鞘師十郎に見合う女になりますから
Why are we helping you though? Like, that's your feelings, that's your personal feelings. Who cares whether or not you become a singer? I don't care if you're a kaiju. Why are we helping her?
私を妻にしてください
You just accepted that?
十郎さん、あいつのことどう思いますか？
Is this Gorohachi's child?
なんともと答えるのはいけないか。
いけねえ。男女が二人で会ってるんだ。俺の分まで幸せにしてやってくださいよ。
Okay, I guess it is his kid.
演技も恋もいつもあんたにはかなわねえな。
What the fuck? You're living a life of lies, Shiro. Why the fuck would you do this? Nozomi was breathing quietly in her sleep. I pulled up the blanket to her shoulders, then left her apartment. Taro finally woke up when he heard the low hum of the elevator.
Ohayo.
Okay, I'm not gonna actually censor that scene. It was just one boob and that was it. It's actually pretty important to the story too. What the? I expected some sort of smut, but alright. He stretched his limbs while still wrapped around my waist.
よく寝たのうんちっていい
ああ。
I looked around for some bushes. That's when I saw a familiar silhouette standing in front of an open gate with her hands on her hips.
本当に無防備イカロスの自覚ありますラランオハ太郎くんオハしかも相手が吉永のぞみって
Why are you following me?
今度はいくら払えばいい
We may have been partners, but Oran would still take money from me. I was certain. I figured she'd need a check, but much to my surprise, she turned away.
誰にでも優しいと本当に好きな人にそっぽ向かれますよ
Oran walked away in a huff as she swung a small camera around. Is it really being nice when he's lying to himself, though? Is his true self really this nice person? This nice persona that he's wearing? I don't necessarily think so. The Taro cycle sped through a highway of morning mist. The city was still asleep at this hour. People in Kaiju were surrounded in silence. The door was unlocked when I got back to the mansion. Yomi's shoes were there, but I didn't see him anywhere. I looked around the kitchen and saw his head on top of an old empty water jug. If anyone else had seen him there, they probably would have jumped, but Taro and I were used to the strange way he slept.
また変なとこで寝てる
One time, he had fallen asleep standing behind a curtain. He seemed to like sleeping in cramped places where people weren't likely to see him instead of in a bed. I picked him up and carried him into the bedroom. His eyes were shut tight. He didn't wake up even after being carried into bed. He woke up right as I broke into a smile. Yomi looked around the room to figure out what was going on. Eventually, his usual smile came to his face.
昨日はありがとう。花束、喜んでもらえた。
よかった。それよりすみません。つい眠ってしまい。
や
I pushed him back down when he tried to sit up. Taro also playfully jumped onto my back.
十郎。
流星群はどうだった？
それは綺麗でしたよ。
僕が寝入るまで話を聞かせてくれ。
聞かせてくれ
はい。
He stroked my back with a gentle hand. I pretended as though Taro was pushing me down and pinned Yomi beneath me. If he could sleep anywhere, he shouldn't have a problem sleeping in my arms. Mumbled, I can't breathe. Still talked to me about his night.
遅れてすいません。
Alright, I think this is gonna be where I call it an episode. I don't know where it is exactly a good place to stop whenever I do these episodes for Ultra C. It just... I feel like if I keep playing, it's just never gonna end, you know? So sometimes when this transition happens is when I feel like I'm comfortable doing an episode cut. But yeah, so far, everything has been new in this new chapter, so pretty interesting stuff. We're learning about the Icaruses, so I kind of assumed we were gonna learn about them since this is Jurosayashi. I wonder what the hell we're gonna learn about Yomi though. Or when Juro's gonna learn about Yomi's true identity, I guess. We'll have to see. But what truly surprised me was the fact that we got an 8 scene with that Nozomi chick. But clearly, since it was only just one CG of her boobies, it's not going to be happening, right? The actual 8 scene is not gonna happen. Even though we technically are inside of her, but only in narration. And clearly, Juro was doing it not out of feelings, and not even out of lust, but maybe a sense of obligation from that Gorohachi person that supposedly he left to die. Interesting story so far, though. But I really don't like the fact that Juro's acting out his life and not really living his life as he should. It's just it's reminding me of how I was back when I was a much younger version of me. And I could tell you guys that it's not really a good way of living since you're not really honest with yourself. But okay. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Give this video a like if you guys like it. Sub if you guys haven't. Patreon will be getting these episodes early access along with everything uncensored. YouTube members will be getting these early access too, but nothing uncensored. But don't worry guys, you guys are just missing like that like boob CG and that's it. Also for people on YouTube that aren't on Patreon just yet, feel free to become a free member because that's gonna be where I put first episode previews of future playthroughs. Okay. I'll do one more episode of this tomorrow, but I think we're probably gonna finish up Ultra C next week, surprisingly. Wow, this felt very fast. I guess I was really enjoying it. I think this is episode 8. And yeah, we're probably gonna be finishing off this series with 12 episodes. Quite short, but very meaningful. I really enjoy this. Kinda reminded me back when I was reading through Christmas Tina back in the day. But Christmas Tina is a lot more like grounded by reality. This one is a lot more crazy speculation stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed intense emotional, or not emotional, internal struggles that they have. Each of these characters have. But okay, I'll see you guys on the next one.